I'm 65. I'm choosing to avoid neighbors and relatives. Here's why. Hello, friends. Today, I want to share a deeply personal and perhaps controversial decision I've made at this stage of my life. I've chosen to keep my distance from certain neighbors and even some relatives. I know this might sound harsh, but as I've grown older, I've come to realize that not every connection or relationship is worth the emotional energy it demands. Let me explain why. If you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. 1. Time becomes more precious at 65. At 65, time feels like a treasure you hold tightly, knowing its value has grown immeasurably with each passing year. There's a clarity that comes with age, a sense of urgency mixed with calm acceptance. You begin to realize that the hours you once gave away so freely to obligations, meaningless conversations, and people who didn't truly care are no longer negotiable. Time, at this stage of life, is no longer just a resource. It is the essence of your existence, and how you spend it determines the peace and fulfillment you feel each day. Looking back, I often wonder how much of my time I let slip away in my younger years, driven by a sense of duty or guilt. I remember the endless favors for neighbors who rarely reciprocated, the family gatherings where tension hung heavier than joy, and the acquaintances who filled the silence but never truly understood me. In those moments, I didn't recognize the price I was paying. But now, at 65, the lessons are clear, and they've changed the way I approach every interaction. Time teaches you that not all relationships are equal. Some add meaning and warmth to your life, while others take without giving. I've learned that saying no is not selfish, it's necessary. Declining an invitation to a gathering where I'll leave feeling drained or stepping away from a conversation filled with negativity is an act of self-preservation. It's not about shutting people out but about honoring myself enough to choose how I spend these precious moments. What I've come to embrace most is the beauty of slowing down and savoring the little things, a quiet morning with my coffee, the way the sunlight dances on the leaves in my garden, or simply sitting with my thoughts. These moments are no longer fleeting. They are the fabric of my days. Time feels richer when it's spent intentionally, and I've found that I'm more at peace with myself and the world when I let go of the constant pull to do more or be more for others. There's also a deep sense of gratitude that fills my heart when I reflect on the time I still have. I'm not in a race anymore, I'm on a journey of appreciation. Each day is an opportunity to find joy, to love myself and those who truly matter, and to let go of the distractions that once consumed me. My time is my own now, and I protect it fiercely, not out of fear, but out of a deep understanding that it is the most precious gift I have left to give. This clarity didn't come all at once. It was shaped by years of experiences, by mistakes I made in trusting too easily or spreading myself too thin. It was shaped by losses that reminded me how fragile life is and by moments of solitude where I learned to enjoy my own company. Time has become a teacher, and with its lessons I've found freedom, not to fill my days with busyness, but to spend them in ways that bring me genuine peace and happiness. So yes, time has become more precious to me than ever before, and in honoring it, I've found that I am also honoring myself. That's a lesson I wish I'd learned earlier, but perhaps it's one that only truly comes when you're ready to embrace it. At 65, I am ready, and it feels like a gift. 2. Boundaries are essential. As I've grown older, I've come to understand that boundaries are not just guidelines, they are lifelines. They protect our peace, define our relationships, and most importantly, honor the person we've worked so hard to become. At 65, I no longer feel the need to explain or defend the boundaries I set. They exist because I've earned the right to live my life on my own terms, shaped by years of experience, heartbreak, and hard-won wisdom. When I was younger, I thought being available to everyone was a sign of kindness. I believed that giving my time, energy, and emotional space to anyone who asked was the right thing to do. But that constant availability came at a cost. I didn't see it then, but every time I said yes to something that drained me, I was saying no to myself. Over time, that imbalance leaves you weary, disconnected from your own needs, and yearning for a sense of control over your life. Boundaries became my answer. They didn't appear overnight. It took years of self-reflection, mistakes, and courage to implement them. At first, setting boundaries felt selfish, almost cruel. How could I say no to a relative who needed help or a neighbor who wanted to chat endlessly about their problems? But I began to realize that saying no wasn't an act of rejection, it was an act of self-respect. I wasn't closing doors. I was opening space for the things that truly mattered to me. I've learned that boundaries are not about pushing people away but about inviting the right ones closer. They help you define what you will and won't tolerate, not out of anger, but out of love for yourself. For me, that has meant politely stepping back from people who thrive on gossip or negativity. It's meant limiting time with relatives who only bring drama into family gatherings. It's meant choosing to engage with neighbors who respect my space rather than those who treat my time as an open invitation. These choices haven't always been easy. Some people don't understand boundaries, and others may resent them. But at 65, I've come to realize that I'm not responsible for how others feel about my choices. My responsibility is to myself, to ensure that my days are filled with peace and joy rather than stress and conflict. I no longer feel guilty about protecting my time and energy. Instead, I feel empowered. Setting boundaries has also taught me how to communicate more clearly. I've learned to say no without apology, to express my needs without hesitation, and to step away from situations that no longer serve me. These are skills I wish I'd developed earlier in life, but I take comfort in knowing that it's never too late to learn. Each boundary I set reinforces my belief that I deserve respect from others and from myself. The most beautiful part of establishing boundaries is the freedom it brings. I now have room in my life for what truly matters, whether it's spending quiet afternoons with a good book, enjoying time with loved ones who uplift me, or simply sitting in my garden savoring the stillness. My days are no longer dictated by obligations to others. They are guided by my own sense of purpose and joy. At this stage of life, I realize how precious every moment is, and boundaries ensure that I spend those moments wisely. They are not walls meant to isolate me but rather gates that I control, deciding who and what enters my life. With each decision to uphold a boundary, I am reminded that I am worthy of peace, happiness, and fulfillment. Boundaries are essential because they remind us that we have the power to shape our own lives. They give us the strength to choose what aligns with our values and the courage to let go of what doesn't. At 65, I no longer see boundaries as something to be feared or avoided. I see them as one of the greatest gifts I can give myself, a gift of peace, clarity, and the freedom to live authentically. 3. The truth about neighbors. At 65, I've come to realize that living near someone doesn't necessarily mean living with them. Neighbors are a peculiar part of life. They are people whose lives run parallel to ours, sharing the same streets, seasons, and views from their windows. Yet, for all that proximity, the connection can often feel shallow or even burdensome. Over the years, I've discovered that navigating relationships with neighbors requires just as much discernment as managing family or friendships, and sometimes even more so. There was a time when I thought being a good neighbor meant saying yes to every favor, engaging in every conversation, and making myself available whenever someone knocked on my door. I used to feel obligated to be part of every neighborhood gathering, to offer my time and energy to those around me, no matter how little we had in common. But as the years passed, I began to notice something unsettling. Not all neighbors respected boundaries, and not all interactions left me feeling uplifted. In fact, many left me feeling drained. Some neighbors thrive on gossip, turning every small event into a spectacle of speculation and judgment. Others feel entitled to your time and attention, dropping by unannounced or expecting you to prioritize their needs over your own. Then there are those who bring an air of negativity to every encounter, complaining endlessly or stirring up drama where none is needed. At 65, I simply don't have the energy or the desire to be pulled into those dynamics anymore. What I've come to understand is that being neighborly doesn't mean sacrificing your peace. It's about striking a balance between kindness and self-respect. I've learned to smile and say hello when I cross paths with someone, but also to gently excuse myself if the conversation begins to veer into territory that doesn't serve me. I've mastered the art of polite distance, acknowledging the presence of others without feeling the need to invite them into every corner of my life. One of the most liberating realizations I've had is that I'm under no obligation to explain my choices. If I prefer to spend my evenings quietly at home rather than joining a neighborhood event, that's my prerogative. If I choose not to answer the door when someone shows up unexpectedly, I'm protecting my space, not being rude. At this stage of life, my home is my sanctuary, and I guard it fiercely. It's where I find peace, recharge my spirit, and create the moments of joy that sustain me. That doesn't mean I dislike all my neighbors, or that I've shut myself off from the world. Quite the opposite. I still enjoy meaningful exchanges with those who respect my boundaries and share my values. I've found that genuine connections with a select few neighbors, those who are kind, understanding, and respectful, can be a source of warmth and comfort. But those connections are rare and should be cherished, not forced. I've also come to appreciate the power of solitude. There's something profoundly peaceful about sitting in my garden in the early morning, watching the world wake up without feeling the need to engage with anyone else. I find joy in the quiet moments, watering my garden, taking a walk around the block, or simply listening to the sounds of the neighborhood without participating in its chatter. These moments remind me that I don't need constant interaction to feel connected to the world around me. The truth about neighbors is that they're just like any other people in our lives. Some will bring joy and positivity, while others will test our patience or encroach on our boundaries. The key is to approach these relationships with intention and clarity. At 65, I no longer feel the need to conform to anyone's expectations of what a good neighbor should be. Instead, I focus on being true to myself and creating a life that feels peaceful and fulfilling. The wisdom of age has taught me that it's not selfish to prioritize my own well-being. It's not unkind to step back from relationships that don't serve me, and it's not rude to protect the sacred space that is my home. These are acts of self-respect born from a lifetime of learning what truly matters. At this stage of life, what matters most is living each day with intention, joy, and a deep sense of peace. For family isn't always easy. As I've aged, one of the hardest truths I've had to accept is that family, while often a source of love and support, can also be one of the greatest challenges in life. At 65, I've learned that the bonds of blood don't guarantee understanding, respect, or even kindness. This realization has been both liberating and heartbreaking, forcing me to reevaluate my relationships and redefine what family truly means to me. When I was younger, I held on to the idea that family should always come first, no matter what. I thought that maintaining those ties, even at great personal cost, was a duty I couldn't shirk. But time has a way of revealing the complexities of relationships. Family gatherings that should have been filled with joy often became arenas for old arguments to resurface. Calls that should have brought comfort instead carried demands, criticism, or complaints. Somewhere along the way, I began to see how much of myself I was sacrificing to uphold connections that weren't built on mutual care. It's a difficult thing to admit when family relationships become toxic. There's an inherent guilt in stepping back, a voice that whispers, "But they're your family." I've felt that guilt many times. But over the years, I've come to understand that being related by blood doesn't give someone the right to hurt you, manipulate you, or take advantage of your kindness. Respect, trust, and love are earned, even within a family, and they must flow both ways to be meaningful. At 65, I've chosen to prioritize my peace over the societal expectation that family should always come first. This doesn't mean I've cut ties completely or harbor resentment. It simply means I've set boundaries to protect myself. If a family member brings more stress than joy into my life, I see less of them. If a conversation consistently leaves me feeling drained or diminished, I engage less. And if a relationship has no respect for my time, values, or well-being, I've learned to let it go. This process hasn't been easy. Letting go of family ties, even partially, feels like letting go of a part of yourself. There are memories attached to those bonds, birthdays, holidays, shared laughter, that make the distance feel like a loss. But there's also a profound sense of freedom in recognizing that I don't have to hold on to relationships that harm me. I can choose to focus on the family members who bring light into my life, who listen, support, and genuinely care, and I can create space for chosen family, friends, and loved ones who have become just as important, if not more so, than those I'm related to by blood. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned is that stepping back doesn't have to mean shutting down. I've found ways to approach difficult family relationships with compassion, even from a distance. I no longer engage in arguments or try to change people who have no interest in changing. Instead, I've learned to accept them for who they are while recognizing that I have the right to protect my own happiness. Family isn't always easy, and it's not supposed to be. These relationships are some of the most complex we navigate in our lives, filled with shared history, deep emotions, and conflicting expectations. But at 65, I've learned that it's okay to let go of the idealized version of family and embrace the reality of it instead. It's okay to prioritize your mental and emotional health, even if it means redefining what family looks like for you. The beauty of this stage in life is that it brings clarity. I no longer feel the need to please everyone or meet unrealistic expectations. I no longer chase approval or cling to relationships that leave me feeling empty. Instead, I focus on the connections that nurture my soul, whether they're with family, friends, or even myself. In doing so, I've found a sense of peace that I wouldn't trade for anything. Family isn't always easy, but it's a part of life that teaches us resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of self-respect. At this stage, I choose to carry those lessons forward, using them to create a life filled with love, not out of obligation, but out of genuine connection and care. That, I believe, is the truest definition of family. 5. The joy of solitude. At 65, I've discovered that solitude is not something to fear, it's a gift to cherish. It's a quiet space where I can reconnect with myself, free from the noise of the world and the expectations of others. In my younger years, I might have mistaken solitude for loneliness, but now I see it for what it truly is, a sanctuary of peace, reflection, and self-discovery. Life has a way of pulling us in many directions. When we're younger, we're caught up in the demands of work, family, and social obligations, rarely stopping to ask ourselves what we truly want or need. Solitude often feels like a luxury we can't afford, or worse, something to avoid because it forces us to confront our thoughts and feelings. But with age comes a different perspective. I no longer see solitude as something imposed upon me, rather, it's a choice I make for my well-being. The beauty of solitude lies in its simplicity. There's no need to explain myself or meet anyone else's expectations. I find joy in the quiet moments of my day, a cup of tea in the morning as the world slowly wakes up, the rustle of leaves in my garden as I tend to my plants, or the soft hum of a favorite song playing in the background as I lose myself in thought. These moments remind me that peace doesn't come from external achievements or recognition, it comes from within. Solitude allows me to reflect on my journey, to revisit the memories that have shaped me, and to acknowledge the struggles that have made me who I am. In these moments of reflection, I find gratitude, not just for the good times, but for the resilience I've gained through the challenges. There's a quiet strength in looking back and realizing how far you've come. Spending time alone has also taught me the value of being present when I'm in the company of others. My mind often races with thoughts about what to say or how to respond. But in solitude, there's no need for pretense. I can simply be. I notice the small details I used to overlook, the way the sunlight filters through the trees, the sound of a distant bird call, or the comforting rhythm of my own breath. These moments ground me, reminding me that life's greatest treasures are often found in its simplest pleasures. I've also realized that solitude doesn't mean isolation. It's not about cutting myself off from the world, but about creating space for myself within it. By embracing solitude, I've become more intentional about the connections I do maintain. I'm more present and attentive when I'm with loved ones because I've taken the time to recharge and center myself. Solitude has given me the clarity to see which relationships truly matter and the strength to let go of those that don't. There's a quiet confidence that comes with embracing solitude, the knowledge that I am enough, that I don't need constant validation or companionship to feel complete. This realization has been one of the most liberating parts of growing older. I no longer feel the pressure to fill every moment with activity, or every silence with conversation. Instead, I find contentment in the stillness, knowing that it's in these moments that I come closest to understanding myself. Solitude is a teacher, and its lessons are profound. It has shown me the importance of slowing down, of listening to my own thoughts, and of honoring my needs. It has taught me that it's okay to step back from the world, not out of bitterness or withdrawal, but out of a deep respect for my own well-being. At 65, I've come to see solitude not as an absence but as a presence, a chance to be fully with myself and nurture the parts of me that often go unnoticed. The joy of solitude is something I wish I had embraced earlier in life, but perhaps it's a gift best understood with age. It's in these quiet moments that I find my true self, unencumbered by the roles I've played or the expectations placed upon me. And in that self, I find a peace that no amount of social interaction could ever bring. So, I welcome solitude with open arms, knowing that it's not a retreat from life but a deeper dive into it. It's where I find clarity, strength, and joy, a joy that's not fleeting or dependent on others, but rooted in the steady, unshakable foundation of my own soul. That, to me, is one of the greatest gifts of this stage of life. 6. Selective relationships are healthier. At this stage in life, I've come to embrace the power of choice when it comes to relationships. I no longer feel the need to hold on to connections out of obligation or nostalgia. Instead, I focus on the quality of the relationships I maintain, knowing that meaningful bonds are far more valuable than the number of people in my social circle. In my younger years, I often felt the pressure to be everything to everyone, a supportive friend, a dependable family member, a sociable neighbor. I stretched myself thin trying to meet expectations, even when it left me feeling exhausted or unfulfilled. But as the years have passed, I've come to realize that not every connection is worth the effort it requires to maintain. Some relationships are like seasons. They serve a purpose for a time, but they are not meant to last forever. Being selective about who I spend my time with doesn't mean I've become bitter or antisocial. It means I've learned to value my energy and my peace. I seek out relationships that are mutual, where both parties give and receive in equal measure. I look for connections that bring joy, encouragement, and understanding, rather than those that leave me feeling drained or burdened. And I've learned to walk away from relationships that no longer serve me, not with resentment, but with gratitude for the lessons they've taught me. This shift in perspective has been transformative. By choosing to surround myself with people who genuinely care, I've created a circle of support that uplifts me rather than weighs me down. It's not about having a large group of friends or a busy social calendar. It's about cultivating meaningful moments with those who truly matter. These connections, however few, add richness to my life that no amount of superficial interactions could ever provide. Selective relationships are not just healthier, they are freeing. They allow me to invest my time and energy in the people who align with my values and who respect the person I've become. At 65, I understand that my time is precious, and I choose to spend it with those who bring light into my life. In doing so, I've found a sense of contentment and fulfillment that eluded me in my younger years. It's a lesson I've learned with age, and one I treasure deeply. 7. Protecting your peace. Protecting my peace has become my guiding principle, a commitment to myself that I will no longer sacrifice my well-being for the sake of others' expectations or demands. At 65, I've come to see peace as the foundation of a good life, and I guard it fiercely. Life has taught me that peace doesn't come naturally. It must be cultivated and protected. It requires intentional choices about who I allow into my life, how I spend my time, and what I permit to occupy my thoughts. There are so many forces in the world that threaten our peace: conflict, negativity, and the relentless pace of modern life. For much of my life, I allowed these forces to invade my world, thinking it was my duty to handle them or that they were simply unavoidable. But now I see that peace is not something that happens to you, it's something you create. Protecting my peace often means saying no to invitations that feel more like obligations than joys, no to conversations that spiral into negativity or drama, and no to people who take more than they give. It means stepping away from situations that threaten my emotional or mental health, even if it's difficult or uncomfortable. It's not about being selfish, it's about recognizing that my well-being matters too. At 65, I've also come to understand that protecting my peace isn't just about avoiding negativity. It's about actively seeking positivity. I fill my days with activities that nurture my soul: reading, walking, spending time in nature, or simply sitting in silence. I seek out relationships that bring me joy and comfort, and I surround myself with beauty and tranquility wherever I can find it. These are the things that sustain me, that remind me of the goodness in the world and restore my sense of balance when life feels overwhelming. Protecting my peace has also helped me approach challenges with greater clarity. When I'm not bogged down by unnecessary stress or conflict, I can face difficulties with a calm and focused mind. I've learned that peace doesn't mean the absence of problems. It means having the strength and perspective to handle them without losing myself in the process. This commitment to peace has transformed my life. It has given me the freedom to live authentically, to honor my own needs and desires, and to create a life that feels truly my own. At 65, I no longer chase after the approval of others or the distractions of the world. Instead, I protect my peace with everything I have, knowing that it is the greatest gift I can give myself. In doing so, I've found a deep, abiding sense of contentment that I wouldn't trade for anything. A final thought. Choosing to avoid certain neighbors and relatives isn't about bitterness or anger. It's about self-respect and recognizing what you need to live a happy, peaceful life. At 65, I've learned that happiness often comes from simplicity, fewer conflicts, fewer obligations, and more time spent doing what you love with those who truly matter. So if you find yourself feeling the same way, if you're choosing solitude or being selective about your relationships, know that you're not alone. It's not selfish, it's self-care. And at this stage of life, self-care is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. Take care, friends. Remember, it's never too late to put yourself first. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with one thing you've learned. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.